Hi everybody, this is Manny with Classic Auto Repair. Today we're completing the second part of the inspection on this 71 Chevrolet Corvette. It's in original condition, has a lot of original parts on it. It is an air-conditioned car, and we're going to go over it right now, some of the items that we found. It's a new customer, so we are looking at safety and reliability issues as we go through the inspection. As we mentioned in the video on the undercarriage where we found the driver's side rear brake caliper, the seal had faulted and was leaking on that rear wheel backing plate down to the tire. This is kind of an indicator that shows us when you see this rubber cap gasket, when it's open like that on the back side, see how that rubber flapper is down, and on the front it's all the way up. That means that there's a fluid leak or loss, because what that little cap is designed to do is to fill the void where the fluid is no longer there. And as you can see down into the reservoir, the fluid is almost completely gone in the back, which would have meant if the air had got in there, and depending on how severe the leak is, when the air gets into that rear reservoir, the brakes will no longer work. You won't have pressure on the rear brakes, and you'll see and feel a difference. The nice thing is this is a later model in the 70s. They designed a dual reservoir so that you don't lose all your brakes in the event that one of your systems faults, as it did in this rear brake caliper. The fronts were still full of fluid, so that means the front calipers were applying the proper pressure to keep the braking system working. It's just not going to be as good performance-wise as when you have both systems working, and especially when the fronts are bad, you'll notice a huge performance decrease, because only the backs would be applying, and they tend not to be as good a braking system on the rears. Most cases, there'll be drum brakes on the rears in the 50s, 60s, and 70s vehicles. You'll have rear brake shoes, and brake shoes just don't stop as good as caliper disc brakes. Corvettes have disc brakes on all four wheels, so the performance decrease isn't as severe as some cars. So something to keep in mind here. One of the other items that we had noted in the undercarriage video was the leaking of the valve cover gaskets. Kind of hard to see on the top end. That's why we do like taking videos from under the underside of the car. Basically, these valve cover gaskets are faulting. They are leaking. Real common on these Corvettes. So we have included on the estimate to replace it. And at that same time, you want to replace the PCV valve, because this is what relieves the pressure in the crankcase and pressure buildup, because these PCV valves get plugged up over time. They get sludge in them and they stop opening, and when that happens, excessive pressure builds up inside of the motor and it blows it out of the gaskets, the seals. So oil pan gaskets, timing cover gaskets, rear main seals, valve cover gaskets are very common. All of that is going to be weak points where the pressure is going to try to escape, and unfortunately it creates an oil leak at that time as well. This is a real original car. Again, as like I said, it's an air-conditioned car. It has all the parts that are normally taken off, like the insulator panels here over the spark plug and ignition system. This helps the radio work better. And surprising, this original AM FM radio is working. So kind of a neat thing that I hardly ever see is the radio still working and still original. Someone hasn't gutted it out and put a cassette player or an 8-track player back in the day, or obviously the new CDs and things that are available for these. But this is original and it still works, so it's kind of neat to see that. Has all the relays, vacuum hoses, everything is still connected. I was showing you a past video where these hoses were missing or cracked on the last Corvette that we did, and this one is all intact, with the exception of one hose that I have over here that's not going anywhere. Other than that, it looks like the system is pretty intact. It's got a burn mark on the on the windshield washer cap cover, but not anything more than cosmetic here. I can see if we can find and locate one of those, and it looks like the plug has also got a melting point on it. We'd have to check and find out what's going on here. It could either be an internal fault or something was laying on it that created that that burn mark in the wiper motor cover. Going on the vehicle, on the engine compartment, again, like I said, it looks all original. I would say this alternator belt is worn. I don't know if you can see that, but it's got some fraying, and it might be something to consider. Instead of having a fault and leaving your car on the side of the road, maybe getting some new belts put on it. Looks like the lower power steering belt was replaced and it's in good shape. Now it did, one of the customer complaints is the power steering is making noise, and that's the reservoir right there. It just needs some fluid added to it. And as we went over on the other video, the sources of the leaks are the ram cylinder, the seal on it is leaking, and the control valve is leaking as well. So I've estimated replacing of those parts with new, which will stop the leak, and the fluid will remain in the reservoir, and that'll stop the whine that's occurring in the pump and keep the pump from burning up later down the road. Going down the list of other items, let's see, I have road noise, which was the sway bar end links down on the bottom of the car. We noted those. We did the safety test on the outside of the vehicle. The headlights, tail lights, brake lights, turn signals all work correctly. The only exception or fault that I had in the safety test was the rear license plate light. And that plate light is up under here. I'll have to check it for a good ground, and most common is just the bulb is either corroded and faulted or the bulb itself is burned out. So we will get up under there, and on approval, we'll check that out and get that fixed for the customer. One of the items we had on it is we got to get it up on the outside lift again. With my business partner in here, we can check under load to find out what that clunking noise is when you go forward to reverse. In most cases, it's in the drive line. One of the universal joints is loose or failing, which causes that. In some cases, it's internal in the transmission, or a transmission mount will cause it to have the rear tail housing hit up against the floor and cause that clunking noise as well. So we'll check that out, see if we can find out what's causing when we go into reverse or drive and causing that failure. Inside, everything is working. I checked the blower motor. It does come on. Horn works. Looks like we got good dash lights inside of the car. So again, it's been mechanically kept up. I do see one failure right here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but the clutch has actually separated from the shaft on this compressor. And obviously that's why the belt is not on the main pulley, the drive pulleys to the crankshaft, is because this is a major failure. Now we can replace this compressor with an original style compressor. This would be an example of a vehicle where I wouldn't necessarily recommend a complete upgrade of the air conditioning system unless we had a bunch of missing parts. The heater core is not working or rusted out. In those conditions and situations, the replacing of the original parts gets close to what it would cost to put an aftermarket upgraded system into place, which we do very often here at the shop. But mostly those are on cars that didn't have air conditioning. A lot of these cars had them removed. So all that you have left is the case right here. And most of the time they cut the lines off to get them out of the way. And this is all that you remain with. But in this particular car, everything's original and it's all still there. The vacuum system, the blower motor comes on, the cabling works. One of the cables I noticed was tight, could be rusting out, and that's the one on the passenger side here. This passenger side dial here is pretty, it feels like the cable is rusted. We might need to see if we can get in there and lubricate some of that or replace it. But the driver's side does work great and it's working the way it should. Over here, you can see the fuel filter. Of course, we always recommend when we do the tune-ups, we get a new fuel filter put on here. This one looks like it's been on there for a little while. Spark plug change is always a good idea on these. Do them about 18 months to 24 months. You're going to want to swap out your fuel system filters, your spark plugs. You're going to want to do the points and ignition system up underneath here. Check your vacuum advance, because that's where you lose your power. If you don't have those key parts working correctly, you're going to see a significant loss in horsepower on these Corvettes. Checked up here for the condenser and the condition. It looks like it's all there. I don't see any major damage, but we won't know unless the customer wants to repair the AC system. Then we can do some pressure tests to see if the system is holding pressure. If it isn't, we need to find out where the leaks are and then start from there as far as the repair process and getting the AC system back to working. Now, a lot of customers, because this is a convertible, air conditioning is probably an afterthought on a car like this, because you do have the top off most of the time, and obviously that's understandable. Like I said, I went over the rest of the vehicle, performing the safety test, and everything looks good on the car. Like I said, just a few mechanical issues that we noted and are building into the estimate. But overall, real nice car. I hope you enjoyed watching. This is Manny with Classic Auto Repair.